I had promised you, and I think we're going to do it right after this podcast. I think we're going to have lunch together, right?
I think so.
We're going to have, what did I promise?
Steak, I guess.
Yeah, it's strip steak. New York strip steak.
Sure.
And because you were kind enough to bring some yesterday, and I stuck it in the refrigerator, or you stuck it in the refrigerator upstairs, and it's still there, and we're going to eat it, and I'm going to prepare it. How do you want me to prepare it? Steak au poivre?
No.
No, I'm not going to do it. I don't have all the ingredients for that anyway. I need a demi-glace for that.
You do? Well, no, I don't. Do you actually?
Yeah, you're supposed to.
Okay.
It's too long. Let's just make a steak. We'll just eat it with butter, whatever. New York strip. Anyway, New York. The reason why I brought up New York strip steak is because we're having it for lunch, and I'm going to prepare it. Or you want to do it?
I don't know. We didn't decide.
Okay, we don't have the grill fired up out yet because it's still too cold out. So we're going to cook it indoors. One of the things, New York strip steaks is in the news lately.
Why?
You might be aware of that, or maybe you're not. Well, apparently, the state of Texas has declared that Texas strip steak is the proper name, and it's not New York strip steak.
Oh, that's dumb.
And they want to rename it.
No.
They want to totally rename it.
That's dumb.
Yeah. And the guy who, so.
That's a publicity stunt.
Absolutely
that's
is.
Stupid.
Absolutely is. There's, and everyone's being brought into it too. You have this guy up in Albany. I forget his name, but he's got a restaurant there called the War Room Restaurant or something like that. The War Room Steakhouse or something. And he's going to sue Texas now for $1 million, whatever. Because I guess they serve New York strip steak up there.
Okay.
Yeah. So I looked up. I mean, I already knew what the origin of New York strip steak was, but it's something that a lot of people maybe are not aware of. I know you're not aware of it, but it started in Delmonico's.
Okay.
Delmonico's not. Oh, I wanted to show you.
It started in Delmonico's? Delmonico's Steakhouse?
Delmonico's Steakhouse. You haven't been there. You've walked past it with me, maybe?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm not sure I wasn't sure if you did or not. I want to show you Delmonico's because it's a pretty cool. Open up.
You're okay.
Take the shot I sent you.
Here. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a cool piece of real estate right there. That's Delmonico's.
Oh.
That's the restaurant.
Okay.
Right. That's on the corner of Williams and I think that's Beaver Street. I think it's Beaver Street.
Okay. In New York City.
Yeah. I used to get my shoes shined like a couple of stores down from there on Beaver Street. And because, my office was literally like, I don't know, 200 feet up from the restaurant there on Exchange Place. And the funny thing is about Delmonico, I mean, just look at that piece of real estate. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I never had a Delmonico steak there. I've been there. I've been to Delmonico's, but I've never had a Delmonico steak there.
Well, what did you get there then? Why wouldn't you get a steak?
Because they weren't serving steak when I was there.
Was it too early in the day?
No, we used to go there I think they were closed at the time. Delmonico's been open and closed. They're there for like, I would say 200 years. They're there for over 100 years.
So what is a Delmonico steak?
Well, wait, I want to tell you.
Okay.
Delmonico's, we used to go there. We used to have what we used to call them for short due diligence meetings there.
Yeah. And
a lot of the guys, when I say guys, I mean other investment banking firms, what they would do is they would rent out space there and we would have, do you know what due diligence is on Wall Street?
I think so.
Yeah, it's basically, doing your homework, and it's a big project. I mean, it's huge. If you're taking a company public, you set up a due diligence operation that's like, maybe got 20, 30 people in it.
Right.
I mean, it's huge. And what companies do is one part of what they do is they got to market the shares of the stock to all the best investment banking firms because they want to set up a syndicate for it, right? So I don't want to go into the boring details of investment banking, but one of the things they do is they have what they call dog and pony shows, and they take them. They basically go out and they wine and dine the local brokers and investment bankers. They want you to participate in their offering. Okay, you don't become one of the underwriters, but you become basically part of the sales team that is going to take some of this stock out from their inventories and put it out to either to the public, or if it's a Regulation D, which is private offering, you have to take it out to accredited investors, which means they have to have minimum capital, net capital worth and income and all that stuff. Anyway, so in order to get interest, you would invite all these people down. You throw a party, and you have lots of booze and you have a presentation, and the CEO comes in and tells you how wonderful the stock's going to be. Anyway, Delmonico's used to get rented out for a lot of that. And I used to go there and drink, basically, and listen to stories about, crap stocks that people were trying to sell.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a big deal. But Delmonico's, they invented the Delmonico steak. And you wanted to know what it is, right?
Right. Because isn't that considered a cut of steak?
It's no.
You can get a Delmonico cut.
Yeah, but
I've heard people refer to
they refer to it that way, but it's usually not.
Is it like a certain thickness?
See, that's the thing. That's why Texas is stupid for doing that.
Don't say that. Don't say that. People are not going to like hearing
I don't mean
that.
the state of Texas, the great state of Texas is not stupid. I mean that the idea that this is a real concern is stupid.
Okay.
It's not real. It's, like you say, it's a PR.
It's a PR thing. Yeah, sure.
Who's the guy? And one idea about that, I could prove that, because if it was a big deal, it wouldn't be Dan Patrick proposing. Dan Patrick is the lieutenant governor of Texas.
Okay.
Who's the governor is, I forgot his first name, Abbott?
Greg Abbott. Yeah.
Greg Abbott, yeah. He'd be doing it. But he wants to run for governor again next year. I think it's next year, soon.
Okay.
So he's not going to start a big hoopla,
I didn't know until recently he was in a wheelchair.
Oh, yeah.
I learned that within the past few years. He's been around a long time.
Right.
And I was like, oh, he can't stand up. Oh, my God. I had no idea.
Yeah.
But, okay, so what is a Delmonico steak?
Well, at Delmonico's, it's a ribeye, a boneless ribeye.
So is Delmonico, but when you see like a Delmonico cut, I've seen Delmonico cut, like in the grocery store on the label. Right. Is that just another word for ribeye? Is there a certain thickness? Is it?
Oh, that's usually very thick, yeah.
Must be pretty thick.
Yeah, but everyone uses that term. And it's basically like, if you look it up on I went and looked up. I know what a Delmonico steak looks like. It's a boneless ribeye.
Sure.
Yeah. But if you look up on the internet, everyone is it could be anything you want. That's because everybody wants to say Delmonico.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
it's not true.
So if I do Delmonico versus ribeye,
okay,
essentially considered specific, often leaner cut of ribeye. Meaning both are premium cuts, rib section, but Delmonico may come from a slightly different area. Okay, so less intense marbling?
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, it's basically the same thing.
Right. But anyway, Delmonico is not really what's in question here.
Yeah.
Delmonico's invented the New York strip.
Okay.
Okay, they started calling it the New York strip. It's particular to New York. It has to do with how the steak is prepared. It's a culinary thing. Mm-hmm. It's not a butchering thing. It has nothing to do with the cow. It has to do with the presentation. So why would Texas is a cow state? So
why does Texas think they need to own the New York strip?
It's just,
strip steak.
I don't know, publicity.
The strip steak is the other half of a T-bone.
Of a T-bone,
or a porterhouse.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about that because we've had that question.
Yeah. The other half being the tenderloin.
Here, the porterhouse versus the T-bone.
Yeah.
Which
they try and rip you off.
The porterhouse is better, right? The T-bone
porterhouse is better. They try and rip you off in the grocery store.
But it has to do like, yeah, right. Yeah. Because you go and you look at this porterhouse.
They'll give you two or three, and they'll say porterhouse, and it'll be wrapped up. And then you look, and two are porterhouses, and one is a T-bone.
One is clearly
you're trying to give me this, and I've been to the store where every single package has at least one T-bone, which, okay, so the T-bone, the porterhouse is when you get a big tenderloin, and the T-bone is when you get a really thin tenderloin. So you don't get as much.
This has to do with where on the cow they cut it out, right?
Like because the tenderloin it starts out fat, then it gets thinner.
And it gets thinner, right?
So if they cut it from the thin part, you end up with a lot of strip, and then a very tiny section of fillet. It's basic. I mean, you can eat it, but it's like 2 bites. But the porterhouse, you basically get a filet mignon,
right,
with your strip.
Right.
And it's like you get this big section and another big section. So what you'll see in the grocery store is you'll see two porterhouse packaged with one T-bone with like barely any filet on it. And it'll say 3 porterhouse steaks. And they'll try and give you a porterhouse price, which is, I mean, it's a scam, really.
Don't buy your steak at Costco and BJ's. That's all I can say.
Right. That's where they do it.
That's where they do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, we don't get that sort of treatment at Peter Luger's when we go.
Of course not. Of course not.
We got a nice big porterhouse, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's the other thing is that there's the I guess they call it ratings from USDA. So you have what do you have? You have prime,
choice prime, yeah,
choice prime, right? So you want prime, right? Prime is like, oh, it's going to be better.
Right.
But the thing is, when they label it prime versus choice,
right,
what they're doing is they're only looking at one cross section of the whole piece of cow. So they look at the marbling from one little area and determine if it's prime or choice. It doesn't mean that it's going to be good further up. So you could get a cut that's why you'll get a cut that says prime, but it looks like choice.
Right.
Because all the way at the other end of the cow, it looked like prime.
Right.
But by the time they cut it up here and they say this is prime and you got it, it doesn't look good anymore. So that's why, and because I looked into this, Peter Luger, they look at every single piece. They want to see the whole thing. They won't just take prime. They'll actually inspect by eye personally each one and make sure that it meets their standards.
It's very easy to make the case that New York strip belongs to New York.
Okay.
I mean, and nobody else. And that's the stake, because New York, it can't be a Texas strip. New York strip. And Delmonico's is a financial district restaurant. Okay. That's who patronizes Delmonico's. I don't know if people come from all over the world to come eat at Delmonico's. They go to Peter Luger's, but they're not going to go to Delmonico's.
Well, I mean, Delmonico's pretty famous.
Pretty famous?
Yeah.
I guess tourists will go. Harry's, I like Harry's better than, well, I guess I never ate really at Delmonico's except for due diligence meetings where we had, rangoons and whiskey.
Okay.
But the thing about strips, okay, do you know what a strip is on Wall Street?
No.
Okay. There are financial instruments, bonds, right? There are treasury strips. There are also corporate strips and municipal strips, but there are things called strips. A strip is a bond that you know what a bond is.
Yeah.
Okay. So a bond's got two parts to it. It's got interest and it's got principal. Okay. If you take the interest portion of the bond is called a coupon. You say, what's the coupon? That means the interest rate. So if you detach the coupon, the interest rate, from the principal, you have two pieces. One is called a strip. You strip it off. Now, that's what you'd think. You would think it's strip it off, but strip is actually an acronym for, it's like separate trading. Look it up, STRIP, strip. Has to do with the coupon separated from the bond. Nobody ever remembers what it is. It's a big, long, regulated.
Well, this says it's separate trading of registered interest and principal of securities.
Correct. Okay. Registered. No, yeah, registered.
Okay.
That's what I was getting that word wrong. Okay. Yeah, that's what it is. So that's what a strip is. A New York strip is a strip is a financial term. This is a financial district restaurant. That's why they called it a New York strip. It was meant to appeal to the people that come and eat in that restaurant every day for lunch.
So is that why it was named that? Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I think it was.
Well, I mean, it would make sense because you're actually then stripping the tenderloin from that piece.
Correct. You're stripping the interest from the principal.
Right.
So which part of the steak is the interest? Which part is the
the tenderloin is smaller, so I guess that would be the interest.
So tenderloin that's a coupon.
Okay.
So you go in that restaurant and say, I'll take a coupon, please, medium rare. Okay. All right. So anyway, so that's what's going on with that. I don't know. Do you think that they should name it Texas?
No, of course
strip?
Not.
It's stupid.
Of course not.
Yeah, but it's pretty good. It's a good PR stunt.
I feel like they already kind of got the ribeye. I think they do. Ribeye being like a Texas thing.
Yeah, they have ribeye, but also it's not a cut. It's how it's who's preparing the steak. And
no, it is the cut. The New York strip is the cut.
The New York strip is the cut.
100%. That's the cut.
Right.
That's the cut.
Okay.
Yeah. It's called a strip steak.
Right.
New York strip.
I know, but you can eat that steak anywhere. You can get a ribeye anywhere.
Yeah, it's called a New York strip.
And you can get it.
I can buy it in the grocery store right here on Cape Cod. It says New York strip on the label.
Ribeye is not New York strip.
We're talking about New York strip.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You said it's not a cut. I'm saying it is.
It's
100% undisputably a cut.
It is
of steak is a New York strip.
Okay.
That's just it.
Yeah.
There's nothing more to it.
All right.
I don't know what your argument is that it's not.
Well, my argument is against Texas in that they're in the cow business. They're not in the steak business. Okay. New York is in the steak business.
I don't think you're going to convince anybody with this.
We cook the best steaks in the world. Texas grows the best cattle in the world.
You're going to lose everybody with this argument here. Nobody's going to like this.
All right, I won't have the argument with you.
No, it already has a name. That's all.
So I'm going to follow it because it's fun. This guy's going to sue Texas. No, he's not.
Yeah.
And Texas is going to rename the steak the Texas Strip. No, they're not. But it's fun to watch.
Yeah. Grass-fed. The steak we have upstairs, they're grass-fed.
Grass-fed, yeah. Thank you
now,
for
it doesn't
that.
say grass-finished.
Well, there's a difference, yeah.
And the difference is supposed to be that it's fed grass all the way through its life and then all of a sudden fattened up at the end with grain.
Right.
Unless it says grass-finished.
Right.
Now, I think the USDA changed that.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I was trying to figure it out, and it seems like now to label it grass-fed, they have to be fed the whole way through their whole life.
Is that true?
They can't end with grain.
Oh, wow.
I think it's only true if they decide to get the USDA label on it.
I see.
So they could still do it if they don't have the process inspected by USDA. But I thought all meat was inspected by USDA, so I'm not even sure. But
I only eat grass-fed beef.
I just don't want any pink slime.
No. Grass-fed pink slime.
No, grass-fed pink slime. It should exist.
Green slime.
That would just be green slime.
Well,
that's my problem with grass-fed butter. It's
right.
like, the butter didn't eat any grass.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The cow ate
grass. Why is
grass-fed
butter so yellow? Isn't it more yellow?
It's way more yellow.
Yeah.
It's higher fat content.
Is that what it is? Sure.
Yeah, butter's gotten like more and more white.
Yeah.
I noticed the butter, like Land O'Lakes.
Yeah.
It doesn't even taste like butter anymore to me. It's just like a white rectangle.
Yeah.
Right? That melts eventually.
Rectangle.
It barely melts too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I eat the
Kerrygold.
Kerrygold. Yeah.
Actually, Aldi has a good.
I don't know. It tastes pretty good. It tastes different than the Kerrygold. It's not I don't know. It's got a kind of different flavor.
It's a little bit more mild, which I like.
I think it's milder. Yeah,
but it's not like Land O'Lakes. It's just like a white
Land O'Lakes
cube
doesn't taste. Land O'Lakes used to be good. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or maybe my tastes have changed.
Well, they took the Indian off the package.
Oh, that's right.
That's the joke. Is that they removed the Indian and kept the land, which is what we're not supposed to do, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's like,
oh
great.
Come on. That's a dumb joke.
It is dumb, but of course they should keep the mascot on there.
Of course,
crazy.
Of course, Aunt Jemima. They should keep Aunt Jemima too on the pancake. I mean, that's crazy.
Don't you want your pancakes buttered and syruped with Aunt Jemima?
Yeah,
like, doesn't that sound good?
I want this
she
wonderful.
Looks like she makes great pancakes.
A big, fat black woman who makes wonderful pancakes. This is fantastic.
I don't know if she was fat. I don't know.
She looked a little chunky.
I don't think she was fat.
Yeah, and by the way, the original. I don't have I don't know all that much about it, but the original Aunt Jemima, who they modeled that after.
Yeah.
You'll see memes about it and stuff. She loved being Aunt Jemima.
Well, yeah, of course.
And she was like successful at it.
Right.
She like rose above the ranks.
Yeah, the real Aunt Jemima.
The real Aunt Jemima.
Sure.
She was like supposedly this really wonderful.
Yeah, it's a success story.
It's a success story.
Of course.
Yeah. And
of course.
Why would they take that away from people?
To cater to a crowd now that doesn't understand.
That's crazy.
No, it's wrong.
That's crazy.
So.
Yeah.
I was going to show you this because I just learned this the other day. Reading about the Lord's Prayer. So we're on Bible talk all of a sudden.
Okay.
But the word, the phrase, give us this day our daily bread.
Yeah.
Right. So daily bread,
mm-hmm.
The word for bread is pretty clear. I forget what it is. I'm sure it's in here somewhere, but it's bread. Like we know that means bread.
Yeah.
But the word daily that's used appears nowhere else in any Greek text. That's it. We don't see it used anywhere else. It's completely unique and exclusive to the Lord's Prayer in Matthew and Luke. Did you know that?
Don't they? No, I did not know that. And don't they have? I mean, there is a word for daily in Greek.
It is, and it's not the word in the Lord's Prayer.
Oh, really?
Really? The word in the Lord's Prayer is Epiousios. Epiousios. And
Epiousios sounds like use it every day.
No. Epiousios.
Yeah.
Or Epiousios. And that's what it says. It doesn't say daily. There's another word for daily. And nobody knows what it means. It's like a coined word. It's like Jesus, or he probably spoke Aramaic, and then maybe he coined a word that was then translated into another unique word. But it's basically an original word that Doesn't appear anywhere else. So
we have to look at the Aramaic, then.
We don't even know what it means. Well, the thing is, we don't have an original Aramaic. We have an original Greek. Right. So that's what we can use. We do have...
we have some speculative Aramaic.
Well, there's the a Peshitta, which is the Aramaic New Testament, I believe. And that's in, Syriac, or I think that's how you pronounce that. But yeah, so Epiousion, the reason scholars don't think it means daily now is because it's already in the verse. Give us this day our daily bread. So why would you need Why would you need this day and daily?
Well,
both
it's
together?
Like, give it to us this day and every day that comes.
Yeah, but even if you look at the reasoning that they originally chose daily, it's like the word daily isn't even there. They just decided it was implied. But there's no real good reason to decide it should be there. So Catholics have a view on this, and Orthodox churches have a view on this too. They think it means more like super essential or super necessary. So it's like something that you need above all else. Like you just spiritually, you need for your body, you need it for your mind, you need it for your spirit,
right,
above everything else in the entire world or universe or
this bread.
And then the word bread. So it's whatever that special word is, that kind of bread. And bread is obviously not to be taken literally. I mean,
right.
But Jesus does use the word bread in other places in the Bible. I think he says, I am the bread, right. He says. And then, of course, there's the Last Supper where he says, this is my body, and that's bread too. So he uses bread as an analogy as well. So, but it sounds like he came up with his own word, is what it seems like. He came up with a word that didn't exist.
Who, Jesus?
Yeah.
He made up a word.
Yeah, he coined a term.
He made it up.
He coined a term.
All this stuff he made up. He just made it up.
He coined his own term, and we don't even know what it means because it doesn't appear anywhere else. So daily bread.
Well, okay. So what are you saying? So what does it mean?
Well, we don't know exactly. That's the thing. We can say daily bread, but we should know that it really doesn't mean daily. It's not from the Greek word for daily.
So what I think about that statement, give us this day our daily bread, mm-hmm. because of that, I am inferring something.
Okay.
Is that right? You're saying because I think that it means today.
Give us this day is there. Yeah.
This day.
That is correct.
Our bread, but it's just a character. He's characterizing the bread. In other words, it does come daily. It does come every day.
Well, it does come every day, but we don't know what that word means. We don't know what that adjective is. Yeah.
Okay.
So
what
but
is
Epiousios could mean substance or something essential.
Right.
That's one possible definition, because you could break it down into the Greek. And the thing is, epi could mean anything. Epi could be for, could be before, could be of. So it's like, could be like super, on top of. Like, what is Epiousios? What did he mean? I think the Catholics and the Orthodox churches are probably in the right direction, it seems to me.
It doesn't require all this analysis,
just something super essential, super necessary, like spiritually needed.
Right. Even if you were to, and that's what people do is, they dive into this and they get into the etymology and the translations and where it came from and all that stuff. And when you do that, there's a tremendous temptation to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Tremendous temptation to study Bible study, as if knowing all of this somehow makes you closer to God.
Right.
And it doesn't. It actually is more likely to take you away from God, because God is not in the intellect. It's not in the words. It's not in the, the message can be delivered through words, obviously, through what people say. But, what is the daily bread? When I think of give us this day, I say the Lord's Prayer every single day. I say it multiple times a day, right. Actually. It's the only prayer I use. It's the only prayer that Jesus gave us. Mm-hmm. That's the only prayer.
Right.
That's the only one.
Right.
There is no other prayer. So that's the only one that we should be using. And there are ways to pray, but that is the prayer, the sentiment, I'm using, I downgrade intellect, and then I say, well, the idea of the prayer, the sentiment of the prayer, which connotes intellect, but it is an attitude. It's an attitude toward your relationship with God and how he comes to you in this world, in your existence, in this physical world.
Right.
Know? So the daily bread that when I say the Lord's Prayer, the daily bread that I mean is strength. We get strength through bread. It's how we live, our strength to live, and the strength to actually come to God, to come to awareness, to come to consciousness in those moments, and opening up that channel to God, which doesn't feel like anything. It doesn't sound like anything. God isn't speaking. You don't hear, if you heard God's voice, you know, Daniel. I get, I get these emails sometimes, or these messages, emails usually, and people send me a message, you're doing wonderful work, and I was talking to God this morning, and he told me to tell you, and oh my God, this
great.
That never happened.
Yeah.
That never happened. So, yeah, the Lord's Prayer is near and dear to me, and it's an important thing. And I hear what you're saying. It is interesting. I'm going to look up more about this.
Okay, let me just say.
And I'm going to dive into the intellect of it.
I think you're saying that just to summarize, the Word of God should be wordless.
Wordless, correct.
Right.
The Word of God
shouldn't be a voice
wordless,
talking
which, of
to
course, is a contradiction, but
we can only speak
the Word of
language
God.
we're taught. So
right.
We have English.
English does fail us on many occasions.
A lot more than Greek and Aramaic.
Yeah, they had some pretty good.
They have some better words for this stuff.
Words, yeah.
We get a lot of confusion, and that's why it is interesting to me to study, to use my intellect, because the intellect, we're given an intellect, we're supposed to use it. It's a tool.
Yep.
Right?
That's right.
You're not supposed to get lost in it, but you're supposed to use it.
Right.
And
how would you be able to bake a cake if you didn't have it?
I could probably figure it out.
How would you be able to learn how to drive a car?
Well, yes, those are some basic uses, but yes, it's a good point.
Yeah.
But I like studying some of these things because you hear arguments from people, and you hear it, and you just know it's like, that's not correct.
Yeah,
that's not right. Yeah. They're misinterpreting this.
Right.
And almost always, I'll actually say always, I can go to the references that they're making, the verses that they're referencing, and I read it, and then I look at the word they chose. I look at how they interpreted it,
right,
and it means something different than what they've decided it means. Almost always, or it's like, oh, it means this, but in this case, with this added to it, it's like, or as you read, it's like, oh, this is an analogy. They interpreted it literally, or something like that.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
So,
and there are nuances too that just go past you if you're too caught up in the intellect of analyzing the literal meanings of words.
Yeah. One big one for that, which is important to us because we do we have the meditation, non-contemplative meditation, is Paul, where he says, "Don't let the sun set on your anger." Right.
Sure.
And he has that other. He said and translated into English, the verse that comes before that is "be angry." It says "be angry."
Yeah, right.
So people love using that. See, it's a command.
Right.
Be angry.
Right.
And if you read it, he's not saying "be angry." First, he's actually referencing a psalm, which is written in Hebrew, which doesn't say "be angry." It says something more like "tremble" or something like that. It's tremble. Referring to your. It's likely referring to your relationship with God. Like how you should view God.
When people think of tremble, they think of fear, and that's another word.
I know, but now we're like 3 or 4 words removed from the original meaning. It's like "be angry." Yes,
English fails us.
It does.
The translation fails us.
It does.
It's crazy.
So yeah, you should look into this word.
All right, I'm going to look into it.
Epiousios.
Epiousios.
Hold on. No, I think I'm saying it wrong now.
Epiousios.
Oh, yeah, Epiousios.
Epiousios.
Yeah. I mean, it is Greek. It is a Mediterranean language. So
yeah, okay. Well, you know what? I want to do a whole podcast on the Lord's Prayer one of these days.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think not that we can cover the whole thing in one podcast, but I'd like to do it one day.
Okay.
Okay. I had that in the back of my mind. You brought it up today, and there's a lot. There's even a lot more that I'm tempted to say. We just don't have time to talk about it right now. But the fact is that the Lord's Prayer is the one single only prayer given to the world by Jesus Christ himself.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing prayer. So.
And he even coined his own word for it.
He even made up his own word.
He even made up his own word.
I never knew that. I'm going to look
Isn't that weird?
I'm going to check you
cool.
on that. I'm going to check you on that one. Okay.
And I like that because so many scholars today, biblical scholars, stuff like that, they're so strict and they're very rigid. And they really don't seem to have their own interpretation of anything. They very much rely on sources and studies that came before them. And then when you read what Jesus actually said, it's like, well, he was poetic. He wasn't just like, oh, these are what the scholars said before me, and he was not a Pharisee himself. He came up with his own word. I think that's pretty cool. So
I never heard that before.
Yeah.
Okay.
It seems like more people would know it. It seems like it should be a more well-known idea.
People are so caught up with the words and looking up the stuff that they don't agree with. They go to find out what the translations mean, and it's just and then they find something new. You can't get caught up in the intellect of this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the message that's behind it comes automatically when you're awake, when you're aware. We talked about the meditation, and non-contemplative meditation is the actualization of the Lord's Prayer within you, in the moment that you're doing it, moment by moment,
silently.
Yes. There are no words.
Right.
There are no words.
Right.
Now.
Or we should say quietly, because you still get thoughts, by the way.
I wouldn't say quietly, no, because no, I don't like that word quietly.
You don't?
No, not really, because quietly.
I thought you didn't like silently.
I don't like silent or quiet.
Okay.
Yeah, silent or quiet. I mean, look, they're cool words. It's okay. The sentiment gets expressed, but you don't want to silence anything. You don't want to squash. You don't want to suppress things.
Right. Sure.
That's what these mantras and all these things do. They create this white noise within you, within your psyche, so that you're not, intimidated, or you're not aggravated by the things that are going through your head, by that chatter. And that's not success. Okay, that's failure, because it's really there. You're not observing it. When you meditate non-contemplatively, you're stepping back from. That's why I call it non-contemplative, because there's no pondering, there's no thinking about things, there's no analyzing. You're just watching. That's why the app is called See. You see, and you do nothing else. That's what it's all about. Yeah. And that's not quiet. When you step back and you become still, still is the word. You become still. What are you still amongst? You're amongst the unstillness. So you see the noise. Okay? You see how unquiet things really are.
Yeah.
You see? So you're still watching the noise in your head.
Right.
The thought stream. Anyway, we'll get into that another time. Maybe the Lord's. Maybe I'll work that into another podcast about the Lord's Prayer.
But the other element of that is the God part, which a lot of the Eastern meditations that claim to practice some sort of stillness or quietness or whatever, that don't do mantras. We observe thoughts, stuff like that. They leave out the God portion.
They do.
To them, it's like we are all God. They like to think everybody's God, everything is God. Instead of relying on God separate from you to save you. That's whether are you the center of the universe? Are you part of God? Or is God the center of the universe and he saves you? That's the difference. The
latter, obviously.
And that's the big difference between true Christianity, the Western world, and the Eastern world, where there's a pantheist sort of everything is God.
Well, that's also why you hear like a lot of the New Age meditation. They talk about self-awareness, and I talk about God awareness.
Yeah,
they're two totally different things.
Yeah.
You do need to become self-aware. Right. But you need to see self for what it is, and God will show
it's not God.
And it's not God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of the non-duality folks talk about. They, I'm God, you're God.
Yeah,
the
that's not duality.
God.
It's saying that there is no duality between man and God. That's what they mean.
We're all one.
Which is not true.
We're all plugged into this one universe. It's not true. It's not true. And then the only reason that you suffer is because you don't realize that. If you would only realize that you're God, you'd feel much better.
And what it does, by the way, if you do practice that, is it creates a huge self-centered attitude that is masked by fake humility. These people are fake. They're fake humble.
Well, that's the only way you can be is fake. It has to be fake. No, they're suppressed. That's suppressed.
I know.
When you see someone, walking around like, through the supermarket aisle or whatever, and they got this like grin on their face and they're walking away. That's an angry person.
Yeah.
You know?
And by the way, I'm not saying this is exactly the same, but it's an analogy. I've met, I used to do some grappling MMA type stuff, right? Haven't done it in a while. I would like to do some more though.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu used to do.
I used to do a little bit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, no gi, just so it's really grappling.
Right.
But you'd meet people or you'd hear people who were like just masters, absolute black belts. Not everybody, but some of them that you would see who are really good at this. Their whole thing is like, oh, I am so good at this that I have such peace and you cannot upset me. But if you do, I will destroy you with my pinky.
Right.
And it's a sense of false humility that they have where they're really enjoying the fact that they're so strong and good at this that that they could beat you in an instant.
Right.
And that's fine. That's a great skill to have, but it's coupled with a false humility that is actually like extremely egotistical.
Yeah, it is. I saw, and I've seen this.
They're getting off on the fact that they're so humble, which is just egotistical.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah, I've seen people into a lot of that stuff who are like, I'm so spiritual.
Yeah.
And
I'm so much better than you.
Let me show you how I can break these bricks with my head. Excuse me?
Yeah, they're those people too. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And that goes to they believe in chi and all this.
Like
moving
chi,
energies around.
They've got names for all this stuff. What's the chakras?
Chakras. That's an Indian. That's a Hindu thing. I think.
That's a Hindu thing. Right?
Yeah.
Guess what it is? It's BS.
Okay. There was one other thing I was going to mention, by the way, because we didn't talk. It's something that we would talk about. Total change of topic again. We're going into Supreme Court for a second.
Right.
Okay. So the big news is that the Trump administration stopped funding $2 billion, actually, in this case, for this specific thing. $2 billion toward projects for USAID, which is essentially the world propaganda arm that that the United States runs. And
I want to say, you're going to tell me more about this because you know more about it than I do.
Just a little bit, yeah.
But the thing is that, and I've been watching the headlines on this lately. I haven't delved into it that much, really. I should. I got to look into it more. But it's like you would think that the entire Trump administration was just devastated over this. Like this is the end. He didn't even get going for a month, and here it is destroyed.
Yeah, but nobody even seems to have really said much. And there's a reason for that. They essentially ruled that the funding must go forward for now. Okay. But it's not it's not like an opinion based on a case that they heard. All they did is they said that a lower court judge, their order stands. And that order was a temporary restraining order that says you got to pay for the work done so far. This is the deadline. You got to pay it. And so it's not that big a deal. Because what's going to happen is the case is eventually actually going to make it to the Supreme Court.
Oh, I see.
So this is one of those cases where it's not actually based on like the merit of the case. It's just based on, actually, they don't actually say what it's based on. They didn't actually give a good reason, but it's still in the lower court. They really haven't heard the case.
Okay, so I don't understand it then. So it hasn't moved from this lower court, which seems to me should not have the ability to do this.
Right.
But it has not moved from the lower court to the Supreme Court, and the justices have made a decision, and now it's law. That's not what's happened.
No, that has not happened.
Oh, okay.
That hasn't happened.
Okay.
So the Supreme Court has not decided that the Trump administration can't do anything about stopping.
They just upheld the lower court's decision.
No, they didn't uphold the lower court's decision.
Okay.
It was a judge that issued it. It's a standard thing that judges can do. Now, it's a bit crazy what the judge did, I will say. But the judge basically said, no, you got to pay all this money. You can't withhold it. It's for work already completed, and here's the deadline. You got to do it, something like that.
Okay.
And the Trump administration was like,
that's an important fact in this.
Right. The Trump administration was like, no, we're not doing that. We want emergency relief. Supreme Court, help us out. We don't want to pay this. And the Supreme Court was like, we're sticking with what the judge said. So once the case actually makes it to the Supreme Court, then they can actually have a substantial decision. But it's not there yet. This was just like, hey, do we have to abide by this judge's temporary restraining order or not? And now, at the same time, you have some of the more sensible people on the court, like Thomas, Gorsuch, Alito. They were like, well, this is just stupid. The judge can't issue a temporary restraining order that compels the government to spend billions of dollars. That's ridiculous. That's completely out of the judge's jurisdiction. That's not a judicial matter. That's for the executive to decide. Especially because it's an ongoing case. You can't in the middle of this case just say, yeah, you got to pay that. And they're probably right about that. If you find yourself against Alito, Gorsuch, and Thomas, you're probably on the wrong side. You probably are making the wrong decision.
So Amy Coney Barrett is not the Wicked Witch of the West?
Amy Coney Barrett, she probably should have sided with them. Yeah. And she should have said, no, this district judge does not have the ability to compel you to spend money.
Right.
But at the same time, it's not as bad as people think.
Right.
So,
okay.
So this is one of those things.
So I feel a bit better about it.
It happens a lot. It happens
when I was really like wondering about
it. It happens when you read news about Supreme Court decisions all the time. They summarize what's going on. They get a lot wrong. And you miss the context of what it actually means for things going forward.
Okay.
They did the same thing with the gay marriage one with Obergefell. I'm mispronouncing it now. But it was like Supreme Court decides gay marriage is legal. Well, it's like, it wasn't that simple. And then you look at, it's like Thomas hates gay marriage. No, he doesn't hate gay marriage. He just, based on the law, it does, stuff like that.
Right.
So the headlines always totally misconstrue what's actually going on. This is not a final decision by the Supreme Court.
I see. Okay.
So there very well could be one should the appeal process make it to them eventually.
All right. So how does the Trump administration save this?
They have to wait. There's actually going to be hearing today, so by the time this gets out, it'll have already happened.
Right.
Where the judge has been ordered by the Supreme Court to get more specific. It's like, okay, you want them to fund things, you better be more specific about what's necessary and what's not right now, because you can't just be like, yep, you got to pay this by this date, end of story, $2 billion, go. You got to be more specific. So that's what we're waiting for now. But eventually it's going to get appealed. I mean, the Trump administration probably just won't pay it. That's my guess. They'll probably say no, and then it'll eventually go to the Supreme Court.
That's how it'll get to the Supreme Court.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet, so we'll see what happens.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. So it's not this great devastating blow to the entire administration, derailed the entire presidency.
It's just a little more evidence for people who are skeptical of Amy Coney Barrett to begin with.
A lot of people are.
Yeah. I met her.
Including me. I know you did.
I met her.
I know you did.
I met her at Princeton, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was there for an event. And that was before she was
that was before
selected.
That was just before.
Yeah, but it was kind of like
we talked about it. It was almost
like she was being prepped for it. Like it's like why is she going around giving these speeches? Because she has to get familiar with being in the public eye. She has to get good at speaking, stuff like that. Like, speaking in front of groups of people. So it was almost like she was kind of like greasing the wheels there. She was getting
groomed.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, that's what we felt at the time, if you remember.
And then she got selected like a few months later.
Yep.
So cool.
All right, cool.
Okay.
So you had your little photo op with a Supreme Court justice who wasn't a Supreme Court justice.
Yes, a would-be who is now a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. We liked her more until she got in, and then
I don't hate her as much as
I got concerned about her because I know she had all those she had the problem with the people in front of her house and all that stuff, which is totally illegal.
She's getting intimidated.
She's being intimidated, and she's a woman. I don't mean to say the women are weak. That's not what I'm saying. Well, they are, but when it comes to that sort of thing, okay. Do I think a Supreme Court justice should be? I don't know if a mother of a family really can do a good job in that position, because you have to neglect your family. Mm-hmm. Her kids are pretty young, aren't they?
I'm not sure.
Basically, in order to, I don't know how old they are now. At the time, they seemed pretty young, and I thought, oh, that's kind of sad. She's going to go become a Supreme Court justice, and she basically has to leave her kids like with nannies in order to go do this, because her husband was he's a professional guy too. He's got a job. I forget the whole situation.
Right.
I don't know. I don't even know what happened with that. So.
Well, the thing is, I was listening to...
I think it's hard. A woman being a Supreme Court justice, is it possible? Absolutely, 100% yes. I didn't see her as the strong person in that position.
I know some people are critical of her. They think she's a bit of a squish, That's what they call it.
Squish.
Yeah, I was listening to Megyn Kelly talk about it too. She's skeptical of her, and she's like, man, like, you know, we get these conservative women, we put them in the powerful position, and then they don't live up to expectation.
Yeah.
It's like over, it's like, and so, but then she caught herself because she started to say, why can't, and she modified it. She said, why can't we get a strong woman in there with some metaphorical balls? As she said it, she realized it was like, oh, like, wait a second. That's
transgender.
Well,
yeah,
I guess, but no, but the point is, it's like, well, we have that expression for a reason. It's like,
yeah,
it's like you're asking for a woman with balls. It's like, well, it's a bit of a contradiction there.
I'm a little less vulgar. I say onions.
Okay.
We need a woman. We need a woman with onions.
All right. I think that's it for now.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else?
I had other stuff to talk about. But
I mean, we could carry something over if you want.
I'll carry it over. I'll carry it over. It's a good topic. I was going to talk about. The brain.
The brain.
Yeah, because I mentioned to you about hippocampus.
Hippocampus.
Right? Yeah. So I have a topic that's related to that I wanted to ask you about, that how it relates to something else having to do with the brain. But maybe we'll save that.
Let's not do neuroscience. Right,
let's not. No, I'm not going to. Well, I'm not going to talk. I'm not a neuroscientist, so I'm not going to talk about it neuroscientifically.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to it that I've learned about the neuroscience of it and how it applies to me. And I'd like to talk about it next time. Maybe we'll do it on the next.
Yeah, we'll do it next time.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's go have a strip steak.
Grass-fed, New York strip steak.
New York strip steak.
Yeah.
Not that Texas. There is no such thing as a Texas strip steak.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
There's no such thing as New York toast.
Okay.
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 Bye.